Are the aliens here? It sounds ridiculous, but we just got one of the most credible UFO whistleblowers in UFO history. And today, we're going to break down exactly what he's claiming and what we know about it so far. You know what? I think I might need a little change of scenery. All right. Anybody who has been reading Tangle for any period of time knows that I have a bit of a thing for UFOs. I've been kicking around a UFO newsletter and a podcast with my brother for a couple of years. I even started building out an email list for that newsletter. If you want to subscribe to it, it's in the YouTube description. And I have also been watching a lot of X-Files recently.
Do you believe in the existence of extraterrestrials?
That's not a joke. It's like me and my wife's new favorite show. So I'm basically an expert. Suffice it to say, I was very prepared when this happened.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
That's David Grusch. He's an Air Force veteran and a former member of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. No, this is not a movie. He is also one of the most well-respected, well-credentialed people to ever come forward, claiming that the US government had in its possession proof of alien life. Grusch's story is quite simple. He says that Congress has created programs to investigate UFOs and that people actually working in those programs have kept from Congress retrieved alien spacecraft, including actual alien bodies. He alleges that information proving this has been illegally withheld from Congress. So he's lawyered up, filed some whistleblower protections, and is now attempting to bring his evidence to Congress. Grusch's story was first reported by Leslie Kean, who has been reporting on UFOs for years, including sometimes in the New York Times, and Ralph Blumenthal. They published their piece in an online magazine called The Debrief. The story of how that came to be is a little bit complicated, but the basic upshot is that Blumenthal and Kean wanted to get their story out quickly. They were waiting on approval on some edits from some other big major news publications, and they said that they believed Grusch's name was about to get leaked and that he was maybe potentially in danger, so they went ahead and published a story in a lesser-known publication. That story, it's worth noting, was published before Grusch went on News Nation, where he made some bombshell claims like in the clips you just saw and in some clips like this.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
Now, this story obviously isn't a typical left-right story, but given that Grusch is going to Congress and I am a UFO hobbyist, this story is really right in our wheelhouse. Still, we aren't going to break this down on partisan lines when there are none. Instead, we're going to give you the case that Grusch is legit and telling the truth, and then break down some arguments that he isn't. As always, I'll give you my take. So let's start with the case for Grusch. The most important thing to know about David Grusch is that he is a credible source, a known entity. He isn't coming forward with doctored photos or making outlandish claims to nonsense news outlets. He isn't a random UFO enthusiast claiming to have witnessed something with zero evidence. He is a decorated combat officer who worked directly on the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force. He works at the National Reconnaissance Office and the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. Those sound like official federal agencies because they are. Other intelligence officials have come forward, active and retired, and not just provided similar and corroborating accounts that Grusch did, but also vouched for how stellar of a person Grusch actually is. According to a 2021 NRO performance report, Grusch was an intelligence strategist with multiple responsibilities who, quote, analyze unidentified aerial phenomena reports and, quote, boosted congressional leadership intel gaps in understanding. He was assessed by the Reconnaissance Office's Operations Center Deputy Director as, quote, an adept staff officer and strategist and total force integrator with innovative solutions and actionable results. While coming forward as a whistleblower, Grusch is being represented by the original Intelligence Community Inspector General. His name is Charles McCullough III, and he was confirmed by the Senate in 2011 to serve as the IG of the intel community. Grusch is not claiming the government is necessarily covering all this stuff up. In fact, he's almost saying the opposite, that information is being kept from the government, kept from Congress, by the people actually working on these programs, which is kind of an intriguing twist in the typical UFO narrative. Since his disclosures, there's also been a round of people coming to his defense. Florida Senator Marco Rubio, the Republican, has said that other intelligence community members besides Grusch have come forward with first-hand accounts of UFO hardware. Leslie Kean, the journalist, went on the New York Times Daily podcast to defend the story and vouch for him.
So what makes you confident in this, given that it is secondhand testimony and it is quite explosive in its claims?
Yeah, I mean, what gives me confidence is knowing him and knowing the reputation that he has, and having talked to other people who know him and have worked with him and have vouched for him. I don't have any reason to believe that he himself would be making anything up. And then you ask about the people who have spoken to him. I don't know a lot of those people, so I can't say that I've interviewed them or anything, but I think after spending years involved with the investigation that he conducted with the people that he claims he spoke to, I would believe that those are the people that would know. I mean, I don't think that the numbers of people that he spoke to, it's hard to imagine that all of them are coming forward and either lying or in some conspiracy to deceive him. I trust his judgment on the people he spoke to and the people that he knows within these programs.
And in the weeks since Grusch came out, there's also been some people who have stepped into the fray and gotten Grusch's back on specific claims he's made in these reports. For instance, Grusch claimed that one of the first UFO cases he was briefed on was about a downed vehicle off the coast of Italy. This happened in 1933, and Grusch claims the Vatican and Mussolini, along with the Italian and US governments, covered it up. And now an Italian researcher has come forward with proof to back up those allegations, saying that Grusch is actually correct, and sort of dovetailing off his claims to pair it with his own research about this very incident. We also got a new breaking news alien story from another pretty credible source, a Harvard professor named Avi Loeb, who says he believes he found fragments of alien technology from a meteor that landed in the waters of Papua New Guinea in 2014. Now, there are a few ways to take this. One is that here's David Grusch, this one kind of wacko person who comes out with these outlandish claims and kind of opens the floodgates for everybody else to come out with their own outlandish claims and their own questionable research and their own questionable stories.
The aliens showed my mind the furnace of all creation, what we would call God.
What? These fancy cats are seeing God. Meanwhile, I'm starting phase 2, which is me sitting on a stool, while 40 gray aliens take turns gently batting my knockers around.
But there's another way to also take this, which is here is somebody who's very, very credible. Somebody with not just the intelligence experience, not just the firsthand experience in the federal government investigating these kinds of UAPs or UFOs or whatever you want to call them, but also somebody who clearly has people in his corner that think that he is presenting something that is close to the truth. Whether it's the former intelligence officials who are publicly saying that Grusch is credible and that they've heard similar stories, or it's the journalists who report this stuff for a living and believe in Grusch's credibility. credibility, it's quite clear that of all the kinds of UFO people we've gotten before, this guy appears to be one of the most legit.
Too legit to quit.
So, you've seen some clips of David Grusch. You've heard a little bit about why he might be a credible person. What about the case that he's not credible and this is just another kind of crazy UFO story? Before we jump into that argument, a quick reminder, if you are enjoying this channel, if you're getting any value out of it, if you like UFOs and seeing me in a tinfoil hat or just the bloopers, please subscribe or spread the word if you've already subscribed. We need to grow this channel and we need to show the YouTube algorithm that people like you want more content like this. Punch that like button, punch that subscribe button, leave a comment, spread the word about the Tangle YouTube channel to some of your friends and family. Thank you. All right, so what is the case against Grusch? That goes a little something like this. This is just the same story as it always is. It's somebody who has not seen any of the evidence himself, doesn't have any of the photos or evidence of himself, and is coming forward claiming these wild things are happening. Once again, for all the claims that Grusch is making, he has not provided any evidence to the public to support any of those claims. He's basically just saying that he's heard other people in the intelligence community talking about these things, and he's had it corroborated through multiple sources, and that he has some classified documents he can present in order to back himself up, but he can't present them to the public. He has to only present them to Congress because they're classified, he's an intelligence officer, and he doesn't want to go to jail. The other argument against Grusch is just that the government sucks at covering things up.
Aliens and robots?
Yes, sir. There are only bad options. It's about finding the best one.
You don't have a better bad idea than this?
This is the best bad idea we have, sir. By far.
I mean, if you step back and think about it for a minute, Grusch is claiming that there's multiple people throughout all these government agencies who have seen aliens, who have seen alien aircraft, and we actually have those things in our possession, and yet he is the first person in 2023 to come forward as a whistleblower. A lot of people just find that totally unbelievable, and I think with good reason, because historically, the government leaks like a sieve, and most of the time when they're trying to cover something up, we find out about it, except for all the things we don't find out about. There's another interesting twist on this story too, which is that the reporters who put this story out said Grusch got his comments approved by the federal government, by the intelligence agencies, before he made them public, which begs the question, if they were trying to cover this up, why would they allow him to go public and talk about this? One theory that's been put forward is that the government wants us talking about UFOs because what they're really doing is testing advanced military weapons, which sounds kind of believable.
Series 4 deatomizer.
That's what I'm talking about.
Noisy cricket.
Hey, Kate, no, come on, man.
Ross Douthat actually asked this question explicitly in the New York Times when he said, does the government want us to believe in UFOs? Maybe it's because there really is something out there, Douthat said, and we're being prepared for the big reveal. Or maybe it's a cynical effort to use unexplained phenomena as an excuse to goose military funding. Or maybe it's a psyop to discredit critics of the national security state, to make, say, Tucker Carlson look bad, persuading him to believe in aliens and then doing a debunking. It's also worth noting that the Department of Defense has actually responded to Grusch's claims, and as you might not be surprised to learn, they did not come out and say there are aliens that they're covering up. In fact, they denied that they have any knowledge of any recovered alien spacecraft.
They say to date, AARO has not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently.
UFO debunker Mick West pointed out that Grusch's allegations simply don't really add up. And, of course, we should also mention that Grusch's claims that were published in the debrief were not the only claims he made. In fact, when he went on News Nation and did those interviews that we've shown you a few clips of, he said some pretty outlandish stuff. For instance, Grusch suggested that it might not be aircraft from another planet, but from another dimension.
I'm sorry, you're saying there's a multiverse?
I'm not entirely sure which of those is less believable, but I know a lot of people are going to question that kind of rationale. He also alleged that some of the alien craft are incredibly large, which obviously begs the question of how nobody has noticed them if they're 100 yards long and in the sky above us. He claimed a private contractor was currently storing a UFO. That is, a private citizen had a UFO in his possession. He said the UFOs have been aggressive and there is evidence of them probing nuclear sites. He even said that people have been killed to protect the secrets of UFOs, which again is basically straight out of an episode of The X-Files.
You ever seen a UFO in these parts?
So, taken together, the people who question Grusch question him like this. They say, where's the evidence? We still have nothing. No photos, no documents, no leaks, nothing of the kind.
You have nothing.
We have one guy claiming that he's heard other people talking about aliens and a bunch of anonymous sources saying that this guy is legit.
Too legit to quit.
And of course, we also have that same person going on television and making some claims that are even wilder and a little bit more ridiculous than the fundamental claim that the US government has alien spacecrafts in its possession. So that is the basic case against Grusch, which brings us to my take. Now, normally, my take is a place where I tell you my opinion isn't the most important, and you don't even have to really listen to it. But today, it's a little different. My take is the most important today because I am a UFO lover, and I'm going to tell you why I think David Grusch is very, very legit.
Too legit to quit.
Okay, obviously I should mention before I start this my take that my opinion is completely corrupted and you should not believe anything that I'm about to say because I am more biased on this issue than I am about pretty much any issue on the planet. Speaking of planets, I think that Grusch is the most legit person to ever come forward about UFOs.
Too legit to quit.
No matter how you're feeling, literally no matter what you believe, this is definitely the most credible person we've ever had in a simple way just come forward and say the government was covering up its possession of alien spacecraft. Why do I say that? Well, he has experience on all of these programs that the federal government set up in order to investigate this stuff. He's someone who's well respected within the intelligence community, and he's also somebody who is trying to do this in the most legit way possible.
Too legit to quit.
Remember, David Grusch is not just going on some YouTube channel like I am and claiming that aliens exist, which is pretty easy to do, and if I'm lying to your face, there are no repercussions for it, which is probably more the reason that you shouldn't believe me.
There's only two men I trust. One of them's me, the other's not you.
But no, David Grusch has gotten a lawyer. He's brought in a very, very legit lawyer.
Too legit to quit.
Somebody who has experience in the federal government, experience investigating the federal government, and experience inside the intelligence community. That's the former Inspector General. He also is trying to go before Congress. Remember, that means David Grusch would be swearing under oath to tell the truth. He would sit in front of television cameras in front of the world, put his entire career on the line in order to tell Congress what he believes to be true. Now, you might think that David Grusch is a little bit off his rocker. Maybe you think everybody around him is just lying to him and this is all some big prank. But even if that's your position, you at least have to give the guy a little bit of credit for trying to do this in the most official, inside the system way possible. We just simply don't get that a lot when it comes to UFOs. And while I know a lot of people are going to just scoff at this because, again, he hasn't presented any information to the public, no documents, no photos, no videos, none of that stuff.
You got nothing! Nothing!
I actually kind of respect the position that he's staked out there, which is, look, I'm going to try and do this in the legit way first.
Too legit to quit.
Which means not leaking classified documents. And, you know, for what it's worth, Grusch seems to care a lot more about the classified intelligence and documents protocols than some current or former presidents. It's pretty good whiskey. Now, I'm not saying it isn't easy to make Grusch out to be a total loon. I mean, he doesn't have any hard evidence. He could just be some kind of cover-up for advanced military tech, and the government could actually want him to be doing this just to create more chaos and confusion. And of course, I totally buy the idea that it's hard to believe the government is good enough at covering this stuff up that we're only getting this story now. And yet, here I am, standing firm in my belief that David Grusch may actually be pretty legit.
Too legit to quit.
What's going to happen now? Well, the House of Representatives says they plan to hold a hearing on Grusch's claims in the coming weeks, at which point we will get him under oath, and hopefully we'll get a little bit more information. I may end up eating my words, but for now, I am very, very curious to see where this story goes, and I'm crossing my fingers that maybe this guy finally has the goods. All right, everybody, that is it for today's Alien podcast. I shouldn't have to tell you to do this, but I'm going to anyway. If you have thoughts, please leave them in the comments. I think most of you are probably already typing away. I am very curious to hear what some of our viewers think about Grusch and his claims, or just aliens and UFOs more in general. And I hope, many of you aren't taking this topic too seriously, because in the end, we should be able to have a little bit of fun with politics and Congress and aliens when we get the chance, which is not very often. All right, everybody, that is it for today's alien-themed video. We'll be right back here next week with maybe some kind of political debate or maybe an update on the world being invaded by little green men. We'll see you then. Have a good one. Peace.
You ever experienced a period of missing time?